In this lesson, we'll cover exporting the energy analysis for secondary analysis. Now, you may ask, why do you want to export this analysis for secondary analysis in the first place? Well, there's other tools out there that actually take the analysis that Revit does well beyond what you actually get in the reports back. Some of those tools include Train Trace 7000 and Carrier's HAP. So they'll actually report back a lot more in terms of reporting on your model than what you'll get from the Revit analysis internally. First of all, we have to decide, what do you want to export to be analyzed, meaning how much data or how little data. So to look at that data, we have to look at the settings for energy analysis. So to start, let's go to the Analyze tab on your ribbon. All the way to the very right, under Energy Analysis, click Energy Settings. Now in the energy settings, you have some common settings at the very top. Location of the country or the world, the ground plane or your base level, and the building type. But more importantly, it's the detailed model, this section. This is the data that's actually run in the analysis, but it's also what you're exporting. So looking at it from the top down, export category. The category I'm using for my analysis is spaces, but you can also base this analysis on rooms. Below that is really how much detail do you want to export. For example, if we talk about glazing, glass windows, do you want to include the surfaces? Do you want to include the mullions? Do you want to include the lines and all the shading elements from those surfaces? So the more detail you put into the model, obviously the longer the report will run, but the more you get out of the model when it comes to reporting. Below that, you have project phase. So if you have a phased approach, you can classify that. Same thing with your tolerance, and the same thing with your building envelope. You can choose how, again, it's functioning for this report. You have building service. So what type of service systems do you have coming into this building? Again, calculating the energy analysis, needs analysis, and consumption. Below that is your actual building construction. Well, is it a building? What type of framing? Again, you have a selection list that you can choose from on this. Below that, your infiltration class. You can actually choose what settings you have for, in this case, the building infiltration. You can also choose whether you want to export these values. And then the report at the very end is, well, what type of report do you want? Standard report, simple details, or as much detail as you can give me. So there's a variety of settings here that you can set for your model for export. Again, these are used internally as well. Now you do have settings below that too. In other words, in this case, if you're using a conceptual masses model for the analysis, or if you're going to use the building elements, such as your walls, your floors, and your windows. Now with all of this set, you're ready to actually go and export this. So go ahead and click OK. Now to export your energy analysis settings, we do that from the Export menu. So in the upper left, go to the large R on the dropdown, go to Export, and then the file format is GBXML. Basically, it's an XML formatted file. Go ahead and click on that. When you do that, you'll see your model appear, either delineated by spaces, rooms, conceptually, or based on the actual model material, walls, floors, etc. On the right, you'll see your parameters and values that you set within the energy analysis settings. Now you can tweak them here if you want, so you could change them here, or you can go back to the settings and change them. The Details tab shows you details of, well, things that you may need to fix. For example, if you expand each of these building elements and click on them. So it's showing me here building element number 1 is the building service, gives me the information and criteria below, but then for each space or room, depending upon what you're looking at, you can look to see if there's any issues, or in this case, errors. If you see a warning, you can click the warning icon on the right, and it'll tell you more in depth what isn't correct and what you need to do to fix that before you export this data. Just click cancel on that. You can also isolate, and you can also look and highlight these various areas in your model. Go back to the General tab. Now, to get to the actual exporting, once you change your criteria and fix your criteria, first you can save the settings. So the settings are saved. If you run this again, they'll be remembered. But when you're ready to export, click Next. Now Revit's going to ask you, what is the name of this XML file that you want to produce, and where do you want to save it? The format is .xml, and then all you have to do is give it a name. and then click Save. For this example, though, here for this lesson, I'm not going to actually save it, so I'll click Cancel, and then click Cancel again. So as a review, in this lesson, we looked at ways to export our energy analysis for secondary analysis of our actual building. We talked about why you may want to do that, the different tools out there that can provide more in-depth analysis, and then we walked through a scenario of making sure our settings are set correctly, and then how we go about exporting this data to a GBXML file through the export menu.